Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello and welcome to this episode of our show. This is your host, Keith Doherty. Today our special guest is top real estate agent Michael Sahakian of Coldwell Banker Previews Beverly Hills South, based out of Beverly Hills, California. Michael has been in real estate since December of 1986, nearly 30 years. He specializes in the sale of high-end estates on the Westside. He is one of the assistant managers at the Coldwell Banker Beverly Hills South office, and he is also the Coldwell Banker Previews Director for Bel Air. Over the years, he has consistently ranked among the California top 100 and among the top 1% in the company. All right, with all that said, Michael, welcome to the show.
Hi, Keith. Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's certainly a pleasure. We appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to be here with us today.
It's my pleasure.
And Michael, if we could start for our listeners, what led you into real estate? Was it something that you always knew you wanted to do, or did you maybe stumble into it?
Actually, it was quite by accident. I have a degree in mechanical engineering, which I got in 1980, and I thought I was going to be an engineer for the rest of my life. And I actually started as an engineer in 1980 for a couple of years, and realized I don't want to spend my entire day in an office, and I wanted to be outside more, and I wanted something that I was more passionate about. So I spent the next few years looking around and doing odd jobs just to keep my head above water. And finally, one day in 1986, towards the end of 86, I walked into the Coldwell Banker office in Beverly Hills to deliver a package. And I looked at the office and I thought, wow, activity was buzzing, agents were coming and going, very busy, and it just felt right. So I immediately went back home and called the office manager, set up an appointment, and had an interview and was hired on a probationary type of way where I had 90 days to produce. And I knew I was going to be out and about showing properties, and I always had a great interest in high-end properties, but never knew what it was all about. And finally got into it and found that was my passion. I loved it.
Excellent. And Michael, do you think you can talk a little bit about what personal attributes, traits, or qualities you think have most contributed to the success that you've had in real estate?
Sure. Keith, the one very interesting thing about real estate is that it's a business where we constantly have to be learning and adjusting. And I'm a really good observer, and I learn very quickly. For example, if an agent shows a property in a certain way that I find impressive, I adjust the way I show my properties, to get the same type of effect. And I learn from presenting offers what the best way to present offers is to get a successful outcome. It's also a business where you need to be resilient, and you have to bounce back very quickly. You can't dwell on a dead deal, and you have to just get up and dust yourself off and move on. And I learned that over time, that deals come and go. Oftentimes deals fall through, and you just can't dwell on them. You just have to just get up and brush yourself off and continue. So those are the two very important things that I feel that I've made a habit of, and it's really helped me along my career. Also, because my education as an engineer, I was trained to be a numbers person. So I'm very analytical, and so the area that I've chosen, which is the estates of Bel Air and Holmby Hills, is mostly hillside properties. And oftentimes you'll have a couple of acres on a property with only 5,000 or 10,000 usable square feet, and I have to analytically figure out how much those 10,000 square feet are worth, and I do that by really taking into consideration what the view is, how steep the slopes are, and over time you just instinctively you learn how to do these things. And over the past 30 years, that's what I've done.
And Michael, I think when it comes to success, that always the road to get there isn't just a smooth, easy path, that you don't just wake up and expect to have everything that you plan for. So can you talk a little bit about some of the adversities or trials that you had to overcome in order to achieve your goals?
Absolutely. I mean, it's this business especially is filled with adversities, and when I first got into the business, I thought it was going to be easy and I could just go in and list properties, and then I realized very quickly that you have to learn your inventory, and you have to learn what you're doing, and you have to know what you're doing, because I picked an area that's very, very high-end properties, and these are very intelligent, knowledgeable clients who could easily sense any type of lack of knowledge that I had, and they'd pounce on it. So before I could actually go out on presentations and get my own listings and do the work I need to do, I need to really learn the inventory and understand the inventory, because knowledge is king in this business. If you don't know your area, people are going to sense it. If you don't know the listings and sales, people are going to know about it, because that's the area they live in. So over the next few years, like I'd say 4 or 5 years, I went out and I looked at every single home in the area that I could get my hands on. Anything that was on Caravan, open house, previews. I went through a myriad of ways to see homes, and there are 1,000 homes that I specialize in, about 800 of which I've already seen now. And over time, you see what sells, what doesn't, what marketing is done, and you find your own method of really pricing these things. And mostly it comes from the gut because you've seen so many things that you walk into a home and you go, well, based on something that sold 3 months ago that's close to this is what this would be worth. So, and I enjoy that part of it very, very much now because I really know my inventory well.
And I guess, Michael, as you hit these obstacles, along the way, what keeps you going? Why don't you give up on things?
I think like everything else in life, Keith, you learn that when you want something badly enough, you just don't give up and you find a way of achieving it. Now, I could see that there were several agents in town who were very successful in this business, so I knew there was a way to do it. I just had to find my own style, and I had to find a method that I was comfortable with. And it was basically, I learned that if I knew what I was talking about, I felt most comfortable. And so the only way I could do that, you just can't become a real estate agent overnight and become an expert overnight. You just have to go out and see homes and spend the time photographing them and understanding them and analyzing them, and then over time you just learn it. So I work in an area where people know very quickly if you don't know what you're talking about, and I just couldn't afford to go into presentations not knowing what I was dealing with.
And Michael, I guess kind of looking forward, what's your vision for your career and your business over the next 5 years?
Well, Keith, basically my vision is to really continue to do what I'm doing. I've been marketing this area for the past 30 years, so I've been sending postcards and updates to this area every 2 weeks for the past 30 years. And I'm just a strict believer in marketing and networking with other agents. And so I'm just going to continue to do that. And I'm going to continue sending these postcards out and continue getting my face in front of people. And after a while, just like you see these television commercials where you see a 5-year-old sitting in front of the TV singing the Coca-Cola commercial. If you put something in front of people long enough, when the time comes, they'll remember it. And I'm hoping that people remember to call me based on the postcards and the information. It's very informative information I send. It's all area statistics, what's sold, what's active, what's pending. And so people know that I'm not wasting time, that I know what I'm talking about.
And Michael, I think sometimes when it comes to real estate agents, the public's perception of them is not always a positive one. A lot of times I don't think they realize all the value and everything that you really do, either on a buyer's or a seller's side, everything that you bring to the table. So what do you think the biggest misconception or myth that people have about working with a real estate agent?
I think is that one of the biggest misconceptions that I've seen, Keith, is that people feel like we're just in it to make a sale. Sometimes people say, your job is so easy. You just walk in and you price a property and it sells, especially in a fast market, in a dynamic market such as we have right now. And there could be nothing further from the truth. It's a very difficult business. You really have to know what you're doing in order to price a property. You have to know how to market it. You have to know how to network. And there's a lot that goes into it that you learn over years. You just can't learn it over months. And, we put a lot of time and consideration in every piece of advice we give to people. And we realize it's a very important decision people are making when they buy and sell. Oftentimes it's one of their biggest assets. So the misconception that this is easy and it's fast and it just happens overnight couldn't be anything further from the truth. I think that we really are into developing relationships. And like a client of mine said many years ago, she said, it could take 20 years to build trust in a relationship and 20 seconds to destroy it. And so there just have been no truer words ever spoken. You have to be very careful how you develop your relationships and how you keep them going.
And Michael, let's say you get a call from a family member or a friend, and they're in another state. They want to sell their home. Obviously, with your experience and probably with your network, you could probably look up an agent or do a referral for them. But from a general advice standpoint, what advice would you give them about selecting an agent that could best serve their needs?
My main advice would be to look for an agent who specializes in their area. I've just learned that a lot of agents really spread themselves too thin, and you just can't know every area really well, and there are always 2 or 3 agents in every area that just know the inventory better than anybody else. And working with those agents who oftentimes have buyers, who know of buyers, who know of brokers who have buyers, they're the best people to work with because they can really make sure you don't leave any money on the table. So my advice would be talk to the agents that you have heard from the most, that door knock, that you get postcards from, and that have been in the business for many, many years, specializing in your particular area. And I think that's the best way to do it. My advice would be, I'd be happy to talk to the agent once they pick the agent and to then see their qualifications. I mean, you really have to know what you're doing in this business to do it right, I think.
And Michael, obviously you're based out of the southern Beverly Hills area, and if somebody's looking for real estate services or an agent in the area, what's the best way they can find out more information about you and how you can help them?
Well, there are several ways, Keith. First of all, as an introduction, you can always visit my website at www.michaelsahakian.com. And I would welcome anybody to contact me directly to discuss any needs they might have. I mean, the best way is to have a phone conversation with somebody, find out what their desires are, what their time periods are, and I'm more than happy to discuss it with anybody, and all of my information should be on the site.
Excellent. Well, Michael, obviously want to thank you for time out of your schedule to come here today and share all of your professional real estate experience with our listeners. And if you're listening and you want to learn more about Michael, you can go to his website, like you said. Also below this interview, we'll have a link to his website and any other contact information we have so that you can see what Michael has to offer and see if you guys would be a good fit to work together. So with all that said, until our next show, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.